This is Raise Your Fucking Standards for August the 23rd of 2025. This one will discuss the following topics. First, we'll discuss long-term game and long-term thinking. The second thing we'll discuss is eliminating limiting beliefs. And the third we'll discuss is setting the standard for yourself. So the first one, in regards to long-term thinking, long-term game. If you want to be extremely successful, be it financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, or all of the above, romantically as well. If you want success in those things, you have to operate with the frame of process and commitment. For example, let's say you're young and you meet a girl, sparks are flying, you believe that the two of you are meant for each other. You start a relationship really seriously, get married a little bit sooner than you probably should have, and then over time that passion kind of fades away, and what's left is a lot of bickering and frustration. I'm not saying that as soon as you feel emotions for a girl that you should stop and hold yourself back. The absolute opposite. I know what that's like to hold yourself back from desire, and trust me, it's not worth it. If you want to be with a girl, by all means, don't be afraid, ask her out, whatever, etc. What I am saying though is you've got to always operate with the long game in mind. Is this girl, aside from the passion and desire that you have for her, is she a suitable person for you in the long term? One of my role models growing up, MJ DeMarco, he's an author and a multimillionaire entrepreneur. What he uses is called the 1-2-3 rule. And what that rule is basically you gotta take at least 1 hour to discuss with this person, your future potential partner, the following 5 or 4 topics. Topic 1 is politics, 2 is religion, 3 is career/entrepreneurship, 4 is family, and 5 is health. I won't go into depth, but if you are interested, look up MJ, that's literally MJ, and then DeMarco, DEMARCO, 1-2-3 rule. So that's kind of that's the 1 in the 1-2-3 rule. The 2 is that you've got to spend at least 2 days in a really uncomfortable, hellish situation with your partner so that you can see what they're really made out of. And the example he gave was him and his fiance had spent 2 days stuck in a little shithole airport in the country of Belize. And long story short, they went through a lot of discomfort and they saw each other for their true selves. And obviously, amongst other things, they eventually got married. The 3 in that 1-2-3 rule is that you have to have dated and lived with this person for at least 3 years to get an understanding of their change cycle, how they act, the things they do, etc. And the reason I'm saying all this is if you do have passion and desire for a girl and you want to be with her, take your time, really figure out who she is and if it's a good match. You know, it's not always going to be a good match. Why do you think that more than 50% of marriages in the United States end with divorce? And although I'm not currently at that point, although I will be eventually, that's just something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind, and you should too. Aside from that, anything else you pursue in the long term, be it some sort of exercise or whatever, you've got to think for the long term. And of course, it comes down to sales as well. If you want to be ultra successful financially and in entrepreneurship and producerism, you have got to be really fucking good at sales, which is why I'm doing Wolves and plan to be with them for a considerable amount of time of my life. I see that this system and these people are worth devoting my time and effort to because they, as me, also have high standards for themselves. They want to create immense amounts of wealth. They want to impact society positively on a massive scale. And they operate with a high sense of self-worth, which is why, compared to the other stupid jobs that I've worked, compared with the other people that I've been around, and even though this this is just the beginning, the Wolves group really is a group of people that's worth being around in the long term, because those that'll stay with it in the long term are in essence going to be the ones, the cream of the crop. That's for long-term commitment. That took over 6.5 minutes, so we'll keep the other parts short. The second part was, aside from long-term commitment, it was, I believe, something along the lines, quite frankly, I'm not remembering now, but the point is, let me just think, what was the other one? So we had a long-term commitment. Wow, I quite frankly am blanking, but long-term commitment, and let's just say that the other ones, aside from long-term commitment, were along the lines, wow, I really am blanking. Okay, forget about that. Forget that last minute. That was just me completely blanking. But the other thing that I did want to mention is, if you want to operate in today's world at a global scale, you've got to operate using social media and other attention-based programming. Because quite frankly, and Boyd puts it really well, today's economy, it's not based on crops, it's not based on industry. I mean, it still is, but it's heavily based on attention. And people are addicted to their fucking phones and their fucking gadgets, which is why, if you can attract attention and hold that attention for the long term, you will be a winner. Why do you think people like Mr. Beast and whatever other fucking influencer you wanna put on the list there, why do you think they're so wealthy? Because they attract eyeballs. And what attracts eyeballs creates money in today's society. Which is why, after not having one for a very long time, I got an Instagram specifically devoted to being around wolves and surrounding myself with other ultra ambitious people in the game of sales, in the game of entrepreneurship, in the game of producerism. I'm not gonna do the same as I did with other Instagram accounts where it was just, as soon as someone followed me, I'll follow them back. No, it's going to be very carefully curated. I'm going to be very vigilant about the people that I follow. I'm going to be very vigilant about the people that I put in there. which is why that ties in with our last topic, which is the law of detachment. And again, this is something from Boyd, but something that I've kind of realized on my own as well, and I'm sure you have too. The more detached you are socially, and quite frankly, the harder you are to get to, the not closed off, but the more scarce you are in social situations, the more desired you are. Because quite frankly, people want what they can't have. That is the essence of the human being, or at least one of the many essences. For example, why are people so fucking obsessed with celebrities? To be honest, personally, I don't see how they're any better than I am. They're people like me. They just engage in a system that draws many eyeballs to them. They don't put in the actions that I put in to work on my intrinsic locus every day, which is why I'm not as affected by that bullshit as much as a lot of other people. But what I'm trying to say is that people are attracted to celebrities. And whenever someone sees one in public, god damn, it's fucking world stops turning. It's fucking Brad Pitt in some restaurant in LA. People find them scarce because, quite frankly, they are. They're not spending their time fucking doodling around, drawing attention to themselves. They're pretty low key. And it's like the less people see them, the more people want to be around them, which is, in essence, the law of detachment. And that goes in hand with, say there's a girl you want, and then you start talking with her and she reciprocates, and it gets to the point of, where you're seeing each other regularly, and then you start becoming too accessible, and immediately she kind of withdraws. And you're like, what the fuck? I thought this girl and I had a thing going. It's not that you didn't have a thing going. It's that you were too accessible, and rather than being scarce, you became a little too abundant. Well, guess what what happens from there? When you're too fucking abundant, then people don't value you as much. Which is why you gotta always be aware that rather than being super abundant, it's better to be scarce. And one last example that I'll leave you with, aside from myself obviously, is a certain businessman. I won't say his name, but he is based in Miami, and he owns an immense real estate construction company, more real estate development, but also construction. And then he also owns one of the top tier luxury car dealerships in Miami. And then he does projects in other parts of the globe as well, but Miami is his primary area. I once sat in on a meeting with him. I will be meeting him soon again because I am going to be moving to Miami. But what I want to say there is that in this meeting, the moment he walked in, all the architects, all the construction people, all the real estate people, everyone, absolutely everyone involved in that project lost their shit. And I will end that there. So good night, detach, and focus on your vision.